Thank you, Chair, and thank you all very much for your contributions. And obviously, I'm particularly interested in Knock Airport. I'm also interested in the collaboration between the airports so that we always have a regional choice, because sometimes you see in the winter time there's a huge drop in terms of routes available and what collaboration happens between you. So I'll just maybe ask a few questions, if that's all right. And thanks for laying all this out here, Joe, in terms of, obviously, there's things that we definitely support and that have already been mentioned. The regional airports programme, extending that beyond 24 months, absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense, and I think there's nobody in this room that would disagree with that, and we have to ensure that happens. The existing threshold, to 3 million instead of 1 million. I wondered what wanted to be, that was answered in the last question. Just maybe why 3 million, maybe just to answer that, why 3 million, why not 2 million, why not 4 million, where does that come from? And just, I'm particularly interested in the cap at 75%. Joe, and the implications that has in terms of finding the 25% there, and within whose gift is it to address that, so that the 25% gap on capital projects isn't there? Is there flexibility from the EU around that? And I know at different times there's been different opportunities of flexibility, but what do we need to do to make sure that that's not there? And if it continues on like that, I suppose, what is the opportunity cost of that? What are we not getting because that cap is there? Obviously, the multi-year investment programme has to be there. Not just from a bureaucratic point of view, but it's impossible to plan if you're 12 months. You're almost certain, but you're not quite certain. So I think that type of planning just doesn't make sense at all. The new route development scheme, maybe if you could just explain that a bit more to me. I'm delighted to see Knock connecting with Heathrow. I think that will be a huge success for all kinds of reasons, and I certainly look forward to using it. But when you're saying about the financial support from years 1 to 3 to de-risk, what are the possibilities there again? Have any preliminary discussions taken place with the airlines about, either domestically, and I often wonder why there isn't a flight as well from Knock to Belfast, or to connect up the north-south as well. We're 25 years after the Good Friday Agreement, and maybe you could just speak to that in terms of the north-south collaboration. And the security screening, as far as I'm aware, it's just Shannon that has the machines that you can do the security screen. Is it? Who is it? Who? Kerry. And
fully integrated in Kerry since 2020.
Knock hasn't been, has it? So I really look forward to that, taking out those bits. And maybe just to give us, what's the cost of that, and where you got the funding for it, and how come we didn't get the funding in Mayo to do that? So they're my questions, really. And Joe, most of them are for you, but then
Okay, thank you, Deputy. I'll try and address as most of the issues as I can. I suppose in terms of collaboration with airports, I think it's fair to say, at least speaking from my perspective, there's a very positive relationship between all the airports, the DEA and all the regionals in terms of collaboration. Certainly at an operational, safety, security, air traffic control levels. Obviously there are some tensions from time to time in terms of access and routes with airlines, which would be expected.
Friendly rivalry.
Friendly rivalry, but for the most part I think we have a very positive relationship, and I don't think the committee has anything to be concerned about in terms of any economies of scale or any efficiencies being lost out there. In terms of the 1 million passenger cap, our proposal was that that's reviewed in the context of regional airports of our scale, which is, we're at just over 800,000 passengers we're forecasting for the current year. The 3 million is permitted within the EU state aid guidelines. That's the next stage up. The current cap is at 1 million set by, I understand, the national national exchequer by government. In our case, obviously, we had serious concerns that if the 1 million cap isn't reviewed, you reach a hard stop. And for airports of our scale, if and hopefully we do shortly get to a 1 million passenger level, all funding would cease at that stage, and that would have a very serious impact. In terms of the intensity of the current funding, and I just want to outline the current regional airports programme, I think, was put in place following a 2011 review on regional airports, which is quite a while ago now. At that stage, prior to that, funding was available to regional airports for both landside and airside development. So airports like Knock, under the previous programme, were able to develop passenger handling, terminal facilities, traffic, car parking infrastructure and so forth on the land side, as well as airside support. The current programme was limited and focused on primarily safety, security and funding towards air traffic control costs in our case, which has been very much appreciated over the years. However, it's been somewhat restrictive, and now post-COVID in particular, the caps on the level of intensity at 75 or 90% for large-scale capital projects are particularly challenging, given the significant escalation in construction costs for large capital programmes, and continued uncertainty over that, particularly over a multi-annual programme, where if you have a 2 million programme that you're planning to roll out, trying to get even to bring it to tender and get some level of fixed pricing in terms of major construction programmes is very challenging for smaller airports, and given that we're all small businesses with very stressed balance sheets, so we'd ask for that to be included in a review. In terms of Heathrow, it's a very welcome development. We just want to acknowledge the confidence Aer Lingus have in terms of putting a major slot, which is a lunchtime slot, into the airport daily from the 26th of March. We're particularly excited with the onward connectivity it gives through British Airways, American, United, Iberia, the IAG network, and also something that really we're only trying to get our heads around is the inward impact, and it opens up the west of Ireland right across the whole global network that's serviced through Heathrow. In terms of new route development, there has been some discussions with the department over the years on what a new route development scheme would look like. As I outlined earlier, regional airports are challenged in terms of developing new routes, in particular to major European centres. There is already a market there, I think a proven market in terms of UK. We have 10 UK destinations, and they're all pretty proven, based around diaspora, leisure and to a lesser degree business. However, developing European hubs is a major challenge, and I think that's been highlighted by other members here, and it's how that could be structured for regionals. Look at all airlines want to fly to the capital city, and that's very understandable. That's where the market is, and that's where the least risk is. But airlines will look at routes into the likes of us and other regionals and look at the first 1 to 3 years and say there's serious high risk in that. Airlines are commercial entities. They have mobile assets in terms of very expensive aircraft, and if it doesn't work in year one, generally they'll terminate the service. It's to put in a scheme that could support years 1 to 3 while the initial market development's been done, while the destinations at both ends are being developed and so forth. And there is some initial discussions looking at other schemes across Europe and what that might look like, but we propose that could be included in the new national aviation policy, and take a serious look at what's permitted within state aid guidelines in terms of funding new routes and supporting new access, because it's been highlighted, I think, both by Mary and Niall in particular, in terms of the potential new hub services in particular and into European destinations can offer for the regions. It would be a game changer. Security screening, you mentioned. We have an application in, we had one in last year to government for the new modern updated security screening that you don't have to take out your liquids and so forth. Unfortunately, we didn't receive funding last year. We're hopeful we'll receive funding this year. We'll need, I think, 2 of the new systems at a cost somewhere of 1.5 million in total or something, I think, approximately. So we're hopeful we'll have those in place, subject to funding being available, Deputy.
Okay, good. Thank you.